guys, welcome back to Loft Sports. I'm Tyler.
I'm Seth.
Today we're going to be coming at you with our Big 12 preview, look ahead into the 2019 season, big headlines, big games, and then as always we'll reveal our standings. But if you guys could like our page on Facebook, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, leave any comments, questions, video recommendations, share, that'd be awesome. And as always, trash talk is always welcome. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into the Big 12 with our 2019 top headlines.
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about Big 12 headlines, you have to start with how dominant OU's been. We thought, maybe when Bob Stoops finally left Oklahoma, would they drop off? Nope. All Lincoln Riley has done has had two different quarterbacks win the Heisman Trophy and have had the #1 offense in the country both years. It's actually been crazy how he's even taken them to almost a next step offensively. They get an established quarterback transfer here in Jalen Hurts. He's probably going to have a great year, let's just be honest. Is he as good as Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray? I don't think so, but he's still very good, good enough to win a division and compete for a national championship.
All right, and what else you got?
Along with OU's dominance, OU and Texas are synonymous. Last year's resurgence with Texas, was that a fluke? Or is it actually going to continue? Can they surpass Oklahoma? I think those are the biggest questions, how those two end up. In our third headline that we normally do, we don't have one because it's the Big 12.
Is there anybody other than Oklahoma or Texas that could maybe come out of here? That would probably be the third.
Pretty much.
One note, though, I'm going to do something that we don't normally do. I'm going to rave on Oklahoma here for a second.
Go ahead.
Since the year 2000, I did a little research this morning, and I think these numbers will stagger our audience a little bit.
Do tell us.
They blew my mind.
Professor Peary coming at you.
Since 2000, which is 19 seasons, almost 2 full decades, Oklahoma, yes, they only have the one national championship from the year 2000, but they have 3 playoff appearances, third only behind Clemson and Alabama. They have 6 New Year's or BCS Bowl wins. That's Rose, Fiesta, Cotton, Sugar, Peach, Orange. They've won 6 of those. The number that really staggered me, they have 12 conference championships in those 19 seasons. 12. And only one of those were shared. So 11 of those are outright championships. But really what impressed me, only 3 of those seasons did they not win at least 10 games. That is extremely impressive. And of those seasons, 8 they won 12 or more. That is incredible when you talk about a 2-decade dominance. They've also had 4 Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks. Just to give you a little apples-to-apple comparison, I'm not saying they've been a better program than Alabama because Alabama's got the national championship. They do. Alabama's got 5 titles. But they've only won 6 SEC titles. Now, we can get into the SEC's a better league than the Big 12. But from 2000 to 2006, when Nebraska, A&M, Missouri, and Colorado were still in that conference, I'd argue the Big 12 was better before Saban and Meyer got to the SEC and elevated it. So 6 SEC titles, only 2 Heisman Trophy winners for Alabama. They do have 12 10-win seasons, but they only have 9 12-win or more seasons. So only one season they've won more games than Oklahoma in terms of the 12 wins, and then they have 5 playoff appearances like we talked about. But Oklahoma in that stretch is 3-1 against Alabama.
Yeah,
the only loss was last year in the playoffs. So just a little bit of a side note, Oklahoma probably the most well-rounded, balanced, successful team the last 2 decades, because even Alabama, before Saban got there, they were a terrible program.
Probably the best team that really hasn't won too much.
Yeah, they're always in the discussion, though. That's what's impressive. All right, let's get into our biggest games of the season, starting with the non-conference. We talked about it in our SEC video. It's just that big of a game. It needs to be mentioned again.
Absolutely.
It's week 2. It's Texas and LSU.
This is a game that both teams have high aspirations. This is where it starts for them. If Texas is going to have any shot at a playoff, they do have to win this game. It's as simple as that. It's probably going to be the most talked about game that week. It's a crazy big, both teams. How do you see it going?
It's at Texas. I like LSU's talent and defense. I don't think Ed Orgeron's the best coach. If you haven't seen our SEC video, there's more on that there. But I like Texas because they're at home.
Fair enough. Moving on to the other one. We already touched on this in our Pac-12 video a little bit, so we won't spend too much time on it. But Oklahoma, UCLA, I kind of talked a lot on that one. Go ahead and give your thoughts.
It's a Midwest team traveling out west, historically traveling west. You're going back in time in the time zones. A little bit of a tricky trip rather than, they always talk about teams coming from west to east.
Yep.
This one you're going the other way. It's at the Rose Bowl. It's early enough in the season. It'll be a high-profile game because of the Chip Kelly year 2 thing.
Yep.
So I think that's intriguing, but let's not fool ourselves here. Oklahoma's still the better team.
Absolutely.
The last one, really kind of reaching here, but the Big 12, once you leave the OU Texas parameters, there's not a whole lot there. Probably the third best team in the Big 12, or one of, that's playing a team worth mentioning. TCU and Purdue play. This is important for the league because TCU is supposed to be one of the better teams. They can't afford to lose to a middle-of-the-road Big Ten team.
No, I mean, Purdue had a really good year. If you caught our Big Ten video, it talked a little bit about Rondell Moore. If you don't know who he is, you need to get on YouTube right now and check him out. Absolutely. He's incredible, one of the better young talents in the country. We're really kind of reaching here. This kind of gets me to a point where the Big 12, they've done themselves a favor by adding a conference championship game. But they're still, I don't think, being taken seriously in playoff discussions besides just how good of a team they can produce out of that conference, as far as like a 12-0 Oklahoma, 11-1, something like that. But when it comes down to it, if they really want to be in the conversation with multiple teams, they're going to have to start doing what Texas is doing here. One of their profile teams playing LSU, they're just going to have to start doing it more every year. It's kind of a side note there, but looking at these two, we're reaching with OU and UCLA, TCU and Purdue. Big 12's got to ramp it up.
Now, this is the only conference that doesn't have divisions.
It is.
Now, they do play a round robin, which most people, I think, will agree we like.
Yes.
Everybody plays each other. There's no crossovers. There's no, hey, we dodged this team this year. But every other conference has 14 teams except the Pac-12 at 12.
Yeah.
They have 10. Yep. Would it be beneficial to this league to go out and get a Houston or a BYU and try to get to 12?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the one thing that prevents them from doing that is the same thing that hurt the old Big 12. It's the fact that when you look at Texas, they are allowed to operate as basically an independent school. You have Alabama on top of the world. I don't see any Roll Tide network or anything like that. Yes, there's the SEC network, but Texas literally has the Longhorn Network that ESPN promotes and puts on there. They act as an independent. The Big 12, when it formed from the Big 8 going to the Big 12, has always favored teams in Texas, especially the University of Texas. I think that's why a lot of teams don't want to join, because they know what's happening there. There's a reason the Big 12 fell apart, and there's a reason they still haven't been able to get more teams into the conference. It's just the favorism of Texas, and I think it's as simple as that.
Which is crazy because Oklahoma's dominating the league. But
exactly,
it's Speaking of OU Texas, conference games that are going to shape this league, OU Texas is obviously the biggest game.
Yeah, I mean that's one of my favorite games. I grew up in the old Big 8 era that moved into the Big 12, so I've always known about Oklahoma, Texas. Those Red River games are some of my favorite as a kid.
2 thrillers last year, by the way.
Great games between these two. It's good. Now that I don't have to have my heart broken by them every couple years, it's nice to see Texas back. I will say that. I still hate them, but it's nice to have them back. It just adds more to that rivalry. It's where the teams should be. It's one of my favorite games every year. I don't want to make any predictions on it right now, but if you want to, go ahead.
No, we'll save that.
Fair enough.
Because I think it'll spoil the entire video if we say who wins that game.
Yeah.
The next one on the list is Bedlam. Oklahoma State. Oklahoma's won more of the games lately, but they're always close.
Oklahoma State always comes ready to play. Whether they're having a great year, average year, bad year, when they see Oklahoma on the schedule, they just play up to that level. They always give Oklahoma a good game. Oklahoma State's down right now, though, and Oklahoma is rolling. It just is what it is. It'll be an interesting game for what it is. I just don't see it really being that close this year is all.
The next one is a trap game to some degree, but Texas travels to TCU. TCU has played well in the Big 12, made it to the inaugural Big 12 championship game. I say inaugural, second stretch from after everybody left the first time. So TCU has proven they're worthy. They belong in this league, and they can compete.
I mean, absolutely. Gary Patterson's one of the best coaches in the country at rebuilding, keeping the program going. that was a group of 5 and then has moved into the Power 5. He's kept them relevant. It's been very impressive. Always is great defensively. Last year was kind of a down year for them, and I'm really looking for them to rebound. I just think Texas is on another level this year.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into the standings. Obviously, no divisions, so we'll just take it from the bottom to the top. Big shocker at number 10, Kansas.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that Les Miles is there. Other than that, what is there really? I mean, it's Kansas. If he wins more than 3 or 4 games, I'd honestly be shocked. Give him time, we'll see. But it's year 1. He's got a lot to fix there. Kansas has been a doormat really ever since Mangino left. Or, well, shouldn't say left, ever since he got fired. They've really never been back to anywhere sort of that level. They're the bottom feeder. It is what it is. They're going to win just maybe 2 or 3 games this year. They're going to be last.
That's what they've won. Interesting take. Kansas, I was looking in the Phil Steele magazine. It lists the last 5 bowl games.
Yeah.
There's a bowl game on there from '95. That's how few bowl games.
And they
Kansas
just show the
has
last 5. So if that gives you...
Yeah, they haven't
their
been
last
to a
5
bowl
bowl
game.
games are over a 20
years, 25 year stretch. And one of those was the last time they went to a bowl game was 08. So Kansas, terrible program. Stick to basketball.
Absolutely.
All right, number 9, team that really fall from grace, West Virginia. They lose Will Greer to the NFL. Dana Holgorsen was kind of on the hot seat, but I think he had a good enough year. They wanted him back. He leaves for a group of 5. Although Houston's a good job, it's a group of 5 job. Surprising departure there. West Virginia kind of turns from a top 10 team to probably not making a bowl. I have them finishing 5 and 7 and 9th in the league.
Yeah, I mean, Dana Holgorsen kept that program at a relevant status for quite a bit of time there. Him leaving for a group of 5 job, it is shocking. I almost wonder if he thinks this is as best as I can do with West Virginia. Do I go to Houston, have a couple really good years, maybe make it to a couple New Year's 6 games, and do I see what else is out there for me? It could almost be a stepping stone job, but who knows? That's getting into the whole other thing. For my 9th place team, I have K-State. I think them losing their coach and Bill Snyder, finally. Bill Snyder, I know you have a lot of respect for him. It's probably time for him to go, but they tried this one time before. It took him a couple years to replace what he means. Just his presence alone meant something. Now that's gone. I don't think K-State is as talented as, say, West Virginia. I got them coming in at 9th.
My number 8 team is Texas Tech. I think they go to 6 and 6 and make it to a bowl game. And I think they upset a couple of teams, but they're going to have to if they want to get to a bowl game. This conference, it's Texas, Oklahoma, and everybody else, but there are some decent teams in this league.
Absolutely.
So Texas Tech is going to have to pull some upsets if they want to get this good of a record. But I think there's still some talent there. It is a Texas team.
Yeah.
They do get leftover talent that Oklahoma and Texas don't get, but they're still good enough. It is a first-year coach. I think they're a little better than where West Virginia and Kansas are, but not much.
West Virginia is my 8th place team. I already kind of touched on them there. Went a little out of order. That's fine. I mean, I already said my thoughts on them. I just think it's a rebuild time for them. That puts them at the bottom of the conference.
My number 7 is Kansas State. You touched on the Bill Snyder leaving.
Yep.
They actually never did replace him because Ron Prince was there for 3 years, and the only thing they ever did was they knocked off Texas 2 years in a row, but they finished like 6 and 6 both years.
Yeah.
So Snyder came out of retirement to coach for another, 12 years or something like that. Yeah. They were a bad game against Baylor away from potentially playing for a national championship, which I wish they would have because we wouldn't have had to play Alabama and get crushed. But anyway, we probably didn't deserve to be there. But anyway, I got Kansas State finishing 7th.
My 7th place team, I have Texas Tech. Do have some talent. They are replacing a coach who got fired and somehow got an NFL head coaching job. I had to at least mention it. That's one of the most shocking things I've seen. But they do still have some talent. Like you said, they're getting some Texas talent that Oklahoma and Texas doesn't want. If you're getting their crumbs, you're always going to have talent. You're going to be able to feed the family, as I like to say, with those types of crumbs, if you will. I just don't see them doing too much more. It's going to be a little bit of a rebuild, new coach, new culture. That always happens. So I got them coming in 7th.
My number 6 is Baylor, a team that could be sneaky. Baylor, kind of a forgotten team. You know, they had the Art Briles fallout. They went from being kind of a flash in a pan, a 3-4 year stretch where they were knocking on the door of the college football playoff. And then that whole scandal down there, really dark time in Waco. They moved past that. They're kind of on the comeback. They got a lot of money because it's a private school.
Absolutely.
So they got the facilities. They've got a little bit of tradition now with RG3 and some of the things that they got from the Art Briles era, although albeit maybe not the right way of getting it. But I think they finished 7-5, and I think they finished middle of the road.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what they are. They're a middle of the road Power 5 team. Do they have potential to make some noise, couple upsets? Sure, Baylor's always going to be able to score. That's just their identity. But I just think that they've lost too much over the last few years since Art Briles. They're not a top 5 team in this conference. I got them at 6.
My number 5 is a little bit surprising, TCU. I'm not sure where you have them, but I got them at 5th. I think they win 8 games, so they're not a bad team at all. I think they go 5-4 in the conference. I think they have a really good chance. In fact, I think I have them upsetting Texas when Texas comes there. But I think that they're just replacing a lot. Gary Patterson, you know they're going to play good defense.
Yep, absolutely.
But they just haven't been on the same level that they were a few years ago. I think they can get back there, but I don't think this year they are. I think they finished 5th.
I got them kind of around there. I'll get to it next. But my 5th place team is Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, they just are what they are. Gundy's done a great job of keeping that program relevant. They have their good years. They have their not so great years too. But they're always in the mix at least. And they always are a tough beat. I just think they're not as talented as they have been in recent years. I got them at 5.
I got Oklahoma State 4th. I think they finish 8-4, 5-4 in the conference, same as TCU. But I think I have Oklahoma State beating TCU. That's how I came to this conclusion of them over the other. Oklahoma State potential to win 10 games.
Sure.
TCU as well, and to some degree Baylor. These 4, 5, 6 teams could move into the top 3.
They were my toughest when I was looking at everything.
There's talent on these teams. They're just, the defense concerns me, and TCU plays the best defense of those bunch. But I think Oklahoma State is potential, and maybe the best potential of that group. But I think this may surprise you. I think there's 3 really elite teams in the Big 12, and then there's a drop. Oklahoma State's 4th.
I think I know where you're going with that. I want to say 3. I think there's 2 and then maybe 1. But going back to it, my 4th place team, I have TCU for the reason you mentioned. If you'll start to realize this as you watch more of our videos, I am very much a defensive guy. So when I'm looking at 3 teams that are right around each other, who usually has the better defense, who can create more turnovers, opportunities for their offense to find ways to win, that's TCU for me. I think of those 3 schools, I think they have the best coach of those 3 as well, the best defense perennially of those 3. I got them at 4th.
My 3rd place team is Iowa State, and yes, I do think Iowa State is okay. They're not quite in the same breath as Oklahoma and Texas, but they return 8 on both sides of the ball, which goes a long way.
Yeah.
And Matt Campbell is a good damn coach, and Iowa State is going to beat Texas. But I think because they're Iowa State, they'll find ways to lose games. They probably have the talent to actually win.
Yeah.
9-3 for the Cyclones, 3rd place finish.
I have them at 3rd too. I do agree with what you said. Matt Campbell returning a lot of players, really kind of have surprised some teams last couple years. Biggest thing for me, they play great defense and they return a productive quarterback. I really like that. The schedule kind of shakes out. They could very well beat a Texas or an Oklahoma. They've beaten those caliber of teams the last couple years. This also, I think we really haven't touched on it. Maybe it should have been a headline looking back on it. This could be his last year at Iowa State, and what can they do with it? Because I think they're going to have a really good year, and I think people are going to say, okay, it's been a couple years now. We got to poach this guy. It's not just a fluke. He's a good coach. I think he's going to find himself a bigger and better job after this year.
Beat me to it. I was going to say a little bit of a side note. write this down. Matt Campbell will be USC's next head coach next season.
That very much could happen, because I think we both agree Clay Helton's out. We also...
Or Auburn.
That's what I was just going to say.
Because I
We
do
also
have
agree.
Malzahn getting fired.
As
At
do
USC,
I.
I have winning the South, so I gotta kind of check and balance myself.
Yeah.
I don't know if an 8-4, but he'd be 8-5 with a Pac-12 title game appearance. I don't know if that's good enough at USC, but Iowa State is not going to keep this dude much longer.
I would think of those two, Auburn's a better chance. I think Auburn's going to have a worse year, and a lot of times when you have a really offensive guy, you hire a defensive guy as a coach. It's just how it works. Matt Campbell to Auburn fits the SEC. That's a whole nother topic we're going on here. But yeah, he's a hell of a coach. Iowa State, this is probably your last year with him.
Number 2 for me, I have Texas. The Longhorns, I think, will beat Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry, or shootout, whatever it's called now. They get so offended by these words half the time. But Red River shootout is what I grew up knowing. That's what I'm going to call it. I think Texas goes 10-2. I think they lose at TCU, and I think they lose at Iowa State. They're an elite program, but I just don't think they're ready. I know that sounds weird because they won the Sugar Bowl, but college football is just crazy. It's like March Madness. Things you think you know are going to happen, and then they don't. Mm-hmm. These road games in leagues where teams are familiar with you, even if you're better across the board on talent, a ball bounces here or there, a penalty is questionable. Mm-hmm. I think Texas is going to beat Oklahoma, but I think they're going to be missing out on a potential playoff chance because they'll stumble a couple times somewhere else.
My number 2 team, I have Oklahoma. That kind of gives the standings away there, but it is what it is. Oklahoma, for me, my biggest thing is Jalen Hurts was able to win games at Alabama. I just think he's going to get exposed a little bit here at Oklahoma. Yes, what they've done the last couple years with quarterbacks is amazing. Those two are just better quarterbacks than Jalen Hurts. The defense was awful last year for Oklahoma. One of the worst Oklahoma defenses I've seen in a long time. Will they be better? Yes, but I think basically the defense isn't going to be very good, I don't think, and the quarterback play goes down. That worries me with Texas clipping at their heels. So I have them actually coming in second. You mentioned your take on the Red River rivalry, as I say. I do think that Oklahoma does win that game, but I do think Texas, I don't want to talk about that LSU game, but I do think there's a chance for them to get into the playoff once they play Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game.
Okay, so you have Texas 1, OU 2.
Absolutely, yep.
Okay, I have Texas 2, OU 1. Everything you just said is perfect. My theory, if Oklahoma, Texas is going to lose a couple games, they probably have the talent that they should win, being Iowa State and TCU. I think Oklahoma is better than everybody on their schedule, minus Texas. I think Texas beats them in the Cotton Bowl, and then they go and they play in a rematch like last year in Jerry World. Potentially a chance to get to the playoff if Texas doesn't stumble more than once. Yep. Because I think a Big 12 champ with one loss has got a very, very good chance of getting
especially if it's Texas, who would have played and potentially beat a high-ranked LSU.
If they beat LSU, then it's no question.
If they beat LSU, they're a one-loss, absolutely.
Oklahoma would have a potentially somewhat decent-looking win at UCLA. So
depending on how Chip does in his second year,
correct.
Absolutely. But that's clearly not on the same level as if Texas beats LSU.
The reason I have Oklahoma just slightly better, they do return 8 starters on defense, which may or may not be a good thing. But I think Oklahoma, we know they're going to reload. And the rest of the Big 12, Oklahoma just has better players. And Texas does too. But Texas's system isn't quite as they just don't put up as much points as Oklahoma, and I'm not normally favoring.
They have a better defense though, so they don't
do, and I'm normally
to.
not favoring the higher scoring teams because I'm always like, look, it's going to cost you at some point. Mm-hmm. The Chiefs were kind of that way in the NFL, and historically those high scoring teams don't win championships. They may get there, but they get exposed when they do.
Yep.
I think physicality trumps finesse when you talk about
just like the Rams last year, if we really want to talk about it.
Yeah, well, that's New England's just a different breed altogether. But we'll save that for some NFL videos maybe. But So Oklahoma, Texas, we agree. Who wins in the championship game?
I think Texas avenges a loss to Oklahoma, and I think really it kind of comes down to that LSU game after they are my Big 12 championship winner. Are they going to be in the playoff or not? I think the real deciding factor is the LSU game. I have them going 11-1.
Texas
Texas going 11-1, losing to Oklahoma, beating them in the Big 12 championship game. 12-1.
That's a playoff team then.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. I have Oklahoma, Texas as well. I have Texas winning the regular season match, and I have Texas sweeping Oklahoma and winning again in Dallas.
Interesting.
Well, both games would technically be in Dallas or Arlington, but I think Texas wins the rematch as well. I think they just match up better with Oklahoma. Jalen Hurts, he is a good quarterback, but he's not Baker. He's not Kyler.
He's been exposed in the past.
And Oklahoma's defense, they just can't keep winning all these big games like that. It's going to cost them. And this year they don't have Kyler Murray's feet and playmaking ability to win the game. Kyler Murray won games last year that Oklahoma should have lost by himself, scrambling, making unbelievable throws.
As did Baker.
Hurts is a great talent. He just doesn't quite have the it factor that Kyler and Baker did.
Absolutely.
So I think Texas wins the rematch in addition to beating them. And because Texas loses 2 games, no Big 12 team in the playoff for me.
Interesting. Interesting.
All right. So closing thoughts on the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, kind of just touched on it. It's basically it's a 2-horse race, really. I just think Texas is just more equipped. I don't really want to spoil anything, but I think they have a really good shot at being a playoff team. I do see one of them making the playoff, though.
So you think the Big 12 champ is in regardless?
I do
barring
because
somehow one of these other teams.
Absolutely. And as far as another team challenging them, I don't really see it. Iowa State, you're going to come in third. You're going to have a really good year.
Which is a great year for Iowa State.
Absolutely. I mean, enjoy Matt Campbell's last year. That's what I'll leave my last comment on the Big 12 with.
All right. Our next video is going to be really fun, particularly to our home base audience. We're going to dip into Nebraska's season, and we're going to give not quite a game-by-game, but we're going to go through their schedule.
Yep.
We're going to preview and predict our record for the Cornhuskers this coming season.
It'll be interesting. And of course, if you haven't caught videos, we're both from Nebraska. I'm a huge Husker fan. He's a big Notre Dame fan, not too big on the Huskers, so should be some give and take with that. So it's definitely a video you'll want to watch for sure.
All right, thank you guys. Again, like our page, subscribe on YouTube. This is Loft Sports. Sign off.